Hello, my loves. Welcome back to episode 316. We are still talking about leave the drama at the door, but today specifically, we're going to talk about not our monkeys. There is a phrase that has quietly followed me throughout life for years. It's really simple, almost humorous at first, but the more you sit with it, the more wisdom it holds. And the phrase is, you've probably heard it before, not my circus, not my monkeys. It is basically a Polish proverb. And the meaning is very straightforward. Just because chaos is happening near you does not mean it belongs to you. And yet, if we're honest, most of us spend a large part of our lives doing the exact opposite. We pick up the other people's monkeys all the time. We pick up their stress, we pick up their frustrations, we pick up their conflicts, and before long, we are emotionally invested in situations that we did not create, we did not start, and we actually have very little power to resolve. Why do us women, humans, do this? Well, psychologically speaking, this behavior makes total sense. Humans are social creatures. We are wired for connection. And neuroscience tells us that our brains contain mirror neurons, which essentially allows us to feel what other people feel. These neurons help us empathize, they help us bond to other people, and they cooperate. So they are one of the reasons we feel discomfort when someone else is actually suffering. But the same mechanism that allows empathy can also create emotional entanglement. I know these are big words, some of them. It's deep psychology, but I'm going to try and make it as surface level as possible so that we can actually use the content. Empathy says, I understand what you're feeling. Entanglement says, I will now carry what you're feeling with me. And those two things are not the same. So there's a psychologist, his name is Carl, Jung? Jung. Anyway, he once said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And what he also understood is that human relationships often operate through projection, emotional transfer, and unconscious patterns. Sometimes when people bring us drama, they're not actually asking for a resolution at all. They are asking for relief from the weight of what they're actually carrying. And the fastest way to feel relief is to hand part of that weight off to someone else. That's why sometimes we need to call a friend. We need to vent. We need to get it out of our system. So I kind of relate to that or call that a subtle invitation if you are aware enough to see it. Drama rarely enters the room announcing itself. Sometimes it does, but it usually arrives very disguised as a conversation that you might hear it in phrases like, I just need to vent for a second and you won't believe what happened, or tell me if I'm wrong. And I mean, that's normal, right? We're human, but when someone says, hey, I just want your opinion, and in that moment, something really subtle happens, okay? An invitation is being extended, and it's not always intentionally, but very emotionally charged. And the invitation is this: will you carry this with me? People don't realize that's what they're saying, but because many of us are just very kind and empathetic people, on the receiving end of that, we often say yes without realizing it. We say yes by becoming emotionally invested. We say yes by maybe taking sides. We say yes by replaying the situation in our minds after the conversation even ends, like, well, how would I have handled that? Or what should I have told her? Suddenly their circus becomes our circus, and we're holding monkeys that we never planned to freaking adopt. So emotional contagion, I think is the word. It's spelled Contagion. So if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, it's fine. We're human here. I don't like big words either, but this was something that psychologists actually use. They call it this. And it's this phenomenon where emotions spread between people the same way a cold spreads in a crowded room. One anxious person, I mean, a simpler way is when I talk about energy, right? But one anxious person can make an entire group feel anxious. One angry conversation can shift the tone of the entire day. This is why environments matter so much. Who you choose to be around matters. It's why certain people leave us feeling energized, while other people may other people may leave us feeling exhausted, depleted, like drained energy vampires. I have a whole podcast on that too, but they're not necessarily, again, doing it on purpose. I don't think any of us do it on purpose. I mean, maybe there's some people out there that do, but I know I don't. But I do catch myself. I'm self-aware. Emotions travel just like energy. It's a frequency. They move. And if we are not aware of that movement, we, as sweet, kind women, can absorb all the things that were never really meant for us. So again, the moment of awareness, that is step one. That is where the philosophy we've been talking about in this series becomes so powerful, because awareness changes everything. Instead of automatically reacting, we kind of just take a pause. And I can't share with you enough how important the pause button is for us to recalibrate, for us to become self-aware, for us to slow down. It gives us an opportunity to actually observe, how is my body responding? We notice what's actually happening emotionally, and women are highly emotional beings. We have a lot of hormones going on. So most women are very, very emotional. And instead of immediately stepping into that circus, we quietly say to ourselves, what do we say? Interesting. That small moment, that little pause of observation, what does it do? It creates space. It immediately puts up not a wall, but a fence. Space between the stimulus and the response. There was another Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. His name was Viktor Frankl, and he wrote something that has always stayed with me. I'm going to have to pull out my notes because I don't remember exactly how he wrote it, and I don't want to misquote him. So hang on one second. Okay. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. That's it. That's the quote. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And when someone brings us their monkeys, that space really matters. Because within that space, we can ask ourselves a very simple question. Is this mine to carry? Now, I'm not saying don't be a good friend, don't listen. If you have time, by all means, go ahead and listen. Go ahead and give, some friendly advice or whatever you feel called to do in that moment. All I'm saying is, in order for us to control our emotions and to not take on everyone else's circus, we need to ask ourselves, is this mine to carry? And in order to pause, all you need to say is, interesting. And you don't need to say it out loud. So we can have compassion without owning it. And this is a very important part. Leaving the drama at the door does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. Although some people may see it that way, that is not what it is. It does not mean you stop caring about other people. It just means that you learn the difference between compassion and ownership. Compassion says, I hear you, I care about you, I hope things get better. And ownership says, I will now emotionally absorb this situation and make it part of my internal world. And I'm going to think about it all day long. And I'm going to feel so sorry for this person. And healthy people understand that compassion is powerful, but ownership is optional. Ownership is a choice that you make, be it consciously. Now you can make it consciously after this episode, but a lot of times you carry those monkeys subconsciously. You can care about someone without becoming responsible for their emotional circus. And this is exactly why boundaries protect peace. Many people misunderstand boundaries. They think that boundaries are walls. They think that boundaries mean shutting people out. But in reality, boundaries are healthy. They are simply clarity. And clarity about where one person ends and another begins. I know you've probably heard of the psychologist Brené Brown. She often says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. That's so powerful. And it may sound rude to some people that have not done the inside work. But we know when we've met humans that have done the work, and it is work. It's a lot of work. And some people just don't want to face it. Some people can't sit still with their emotions. Some people can't sit still with their thoughts. A lot of people escape through alcohol, through keeping their calendar with no white space, through overly exerting themselves in work or entertainment or travel or whatever that may be. Boundaries are not punishment. They're protection, and protection of your mental energy, protection of your emotional well-being, protection of the life that you're trying to build and live. Because we want peace. Because if you carry every monkey someone hands you, eventually you will be running a circus of your own. So, one of the most peaceful realizations a person can have in this life is you are allowed to let some things remain exactly where they are, and that's okay. You do not have to solve every conflict, and that's okay. You do not have to fix every problem, and that's okay. You do not have to emotionally invest in every story that crosses your path. Sometimes the healthiest response is simply recognition. Recognizing that this situation belongs to someone else. Recognizing that their journey includes challenges they must learn to navigate themselves. Recognizing that your peace matters too. And when you see the monkeys approaching, you simply step aside. So in closing, I don't want this to get too long. Peaceful people are not peaceful because life is easy. And that's a big thing to understand. A lot of people will never understand that. They just don't get it because they don't take the time to do the work. But peaceful people are not peaceful because life is easy. They are peaceful because they have learned something important. They have learned how to recognize what belongs to them and what does not. They have learned that empathy does not require absorbing everything around you. And they have learned that some of the greatest emotional freedom in life comes from just understanding. Not every circus needs another participant. Not every monkey needs another pair of hands. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply leave them where they belong. Because at the end of the day, they're not our monkeys. This episode is part of the Leave the Drama at the Door philosophy. I did a part 1, part 2, part 3 that really gave you the intro. If you haven't listened to those episodes, I believe it's 312, 313, 314, maybe. And if these ideas stirred up something with you, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss the next conversation, because a good one is coming. I promise you, 317 is going to blow your mind, because we are continuing to explore how awareness, boundaries, and emotional clarity help us live lighter and a little bit more peaceful. And isn't that what we all want? To be happy and peaceful? For things to feel good? And if you'd like, I can also direct you to the space where you can start this practice in a program called Dare to Say No. It's at glitteru.com/theshop. That's glitteru.com/THESHOP. I'll drop it in the show notes, the link. But it's a program that is a 7-day boundary setting program that will change your actions. It will change your way of thinking. It will give you something that I consider most therapy sessions will not leave you with. Like it's so good. So if you haven't started with boundary setting and you feel like this is something that you want to dive a little bit deeper, but like not make it crazy complicated, do the Dare to Say No program. It's 7 days, and then come back and give me in the comments here your feedback on that program. Okay? All right. I love you so much. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.